Most people believe potatoes belong to spring, a crop to be planted in the warm soil of April or May. That belief, a cultural assumption passed down through generations of gardening books and the endless echo chamber of internet forums, costs them half a year of food security and locks them into a cycle of dependence on the supermarket. This is a collective error, a fundamental misunderstanding of the calendar that treats winter as a dead season, a pause to be endured, a time of waiting and planning, but never a time of action. But winter is not a pause. It is a setup phase, a strategic opportunity to engineer a head start. And you can plant your first crop of the year right now in the frozen ground of late January and triple your harvest using a system of calendar manipulation and biological engineering. This is not a gardening trick. It is a logistical system for hacking the calendar, composed of three distinct interconnected phases that build upon each other to create an unstoppable momentum. First, in late January, you initiate the biological acceleration process known as chitting, pre-sprouting your seed potatoes indoors to give them a 4-week head start on the season, a process that costs nothing but delivers an enormous time advantage. Second, in early February, you deploy a microclimate infrastructure, a cloche, over your prepared soil, creating a pocket of artificial spring that allows you to plant weeks, even months before the last frost, effectively creating a new earlier growing season that you control. Third, from late spring through early summer, you execute a multi-stage harvesting protocol, extracting value from the system continuously instead of waiting for a single final crop, which fundamentally changes the economics and logistics of your entire garden space. Let's begin with the first phase, biological acceleration, because this is where you gain your initial insurmountable advantage over the conventional calendar. Chitting is not just a quaint tradition. It is a deliberate manipulation of the potato's hormonal system, a form of biological engineering that you perform on your windowsill. In late January, you place your seed potatoes in a single layer in an egg carton, with the end containing the most eyes facing upwards, and you expose them to cool, bright, indirect light. This is not about warmth. It is about information because the light signals the potato to produce short, sturdy, dark green sprouts, which are concentrated packets of explosive growth potential ready to photosynthesize from day one. If you skip this, you are not just planting a potato. You are planting a dormant, unprogrammed tuber that will spend weeks underground simply waking up, wasting the most valuable resource you have, time. Food security is a scheduling problem, and this is where you solve it, gaining a month of growth before your neighbors have even bought their seeds. In year one, this means potatoes in May instead of July. A simple, satisfying win. But in year three, it means your entire garden plan has shifted with successional crops like brassicas or leeks planted after your early potatoes, creating a cascade of abundance that ripples through the entire year. A system feeding a system. Now let's address the variable of location, because most people think this only works in warm climates, and that is a fundamental error in thinking that costs them dearly. This isn't a warm climate trick. It works in cold zones, mild zones, and everything in between. From the challenging conditions of USDA Zone 4 to the gentle winters of Zone 9, because it's not about ambient weather. It's about timing and microclimate control. Whether you live in Zone 5, 7B, or 9, the principle is the same. You are not waiting for spring. You are building it. Your specific zone only dictates the tactics. When you start chitting, when you deploy the cloche, how much insulation you might need. But the strategy is universal. Compress the timeline and create a microclimate. This is a system of control, not a gamble on the weather. And it is this distinction that separates the homesteader from the hobby gardener. In early February, you deploy the infrastructure. And this is where the real calendar hacking begins, where you impose your will on the season. A cloche is not a piece of plastic. It is a tool for time manipulation, a miniature greenhouse that creates a localized artificial spring, a bubble of warmth and protection in the dead of winter. You prepare your trench 5 inches deep and plant your chitted, pre-programmed potatoes, each one a small loaded spring of potential. Then you cover the row with the cloche, and this is the moment that changes everything. The moment you step outside the conventional flow of time, inside that protected space, the soil temperature begins to rise. The frost is held at bay, and the potato, already primed for growth, explodes into action, unfurling its leaves in a space where nothing else is growing. This is the holy moment, the point where you realize you've been thinking about this wrong your whole life. You are not waiting for the season. You are creating it. Without the cloche, a single late frost would kill the young shoots, a catastrophic failure that resets your timeline to zero, forcing the plant to expend precious energy regrowing from the tuber, a setback you may never recover from. With the cloche, you have created a buffer, an insurance policy against the volatility of nature, allowing you to operate outside the conventional calendar and its limitations. This leads to the final phase, the multi-stage harvesting protocol, the part of the system that delivers a continuous return on your initial investment of time and planning. The triple harvest is not a marketing gimmick. It is a direct result of this compressed timeline and a shift in harvesting philosophy from a single event to a continuous process. By late spring, weeks before anyone else is even thinking about potatoes, you can begin robbing the nests, gently reaching under the soil to pull the first tender, waxy new potatoes from the plant. This is your first yield, a stream of fresh food that fills the hungry gap. That difficult period when winter stores are gone and summer crops are not yet ready. This single act breaks your dependence on the supermarket for one of the most expensive forms of potato. And it does so at the most critical time of year, saving you money and providing superior flavor. You can continue this for weeks, a continuous dividend from your initial investment of time and planning. And then when the plant finally flowers and begins to die back, you perform the main harvest, digging up the larger mature tubers for storage. This is the system, a continuous harvest of new potatoes for the kitchen, followed by a bulk harvest for the pantry, effectively tripling the value you extract from a single piece of ground. This is a fundamental shift in perspective from gardener to systems operator. You are no longer just a gardener, a passive recipient of nature's whims, planting when the calendar tells you to and hoping for the best. You are an engineer of abundance, a homesteader who understands that food security is not about having a large garden, but about having a smart one, a system of interconnected, high-leverage actions. You are not just growing potatoes. You are building a resilient, anti-fragile food system that is insulated from the shocks of the conventional calendar and the failures of the global supply chain. This changes not just your garden, but your entire relationship with food, from one of passive consumption to one of active production and control. A shift that has consequences for your budget, your health, and your mindset. Imagine it is early May, and your neighbor's gardens are just bare soil, a landscape of hope and potential, waiting for the traditional planting time. You, however, are in your kitchen cooking a meal of fresh, tender new potatoes that you just pulled from the ground. A meal that is impossible for anyone following the conventional rules. A meal that tastes of victory over the calendar. Imagine the scene, the steam rising from the potatoes, the smell of fresh mint, the knowledge that you created this meal out of a frozen garden while everyone else was still looking at seed catalogs. Imagine it is July and you are digging up a massive crop of storage potatoes. Your winter food security already guaranteed while others are still weeks away from their first harvest, still worrying about blight and pests. This is the power of calendar hacking, of understanding that winter is not a pause but a setup phase for the abundance to come. A strategic opportunity that most people miss year after year. This is what real self-sufficiency looks like. Not a bigger garden, but a smarter one. It's about understanding the systems of nature so you can bend them to your will. Creating your own seasons and harvesting food when everyone else thinks it's impossible. This is how you break free from the tyranny of the calendar, the tyranny of the supermarket, and the tyranny of conventional thinking, and take control of your food supply. If this strategy changes how you view the frozen ground of winter, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the self-sufficiency secrets that have been overlooked for too long. Plant your future today. The next harvest of knowledge will be ready soon.